I graduated high school, of course, and then I was supposed to go to the University of Illinois. I really loved journalism. I was a writer for the school paper. And Ernest Hemingway went to our school and got kicked off the school paper, actually. And so there's a lot of tradition in our school. And so but anyway, I graduated and I was scheduled to go to the University of Illinois. And I decided, at the University of Illinois didn't allow cars the first year. And I had this beautiful Corvette that I worked really hard to earn. My parents helped me with it, but I couldn't drive it for a year. So I figured, well, I'm going to take a nice vacation, go down to Miami and visit some relatives I had there, and drive down and get this driving out of my system. So I did. I drove down to Miami, and I got together with my family down there, and one of them was going to the University of Miami. They took me there, and I went, I looked around at the campus, all brand new. Everything was really nice and clean, and the weather was fabulous, and I could drive my car. If I enrolled there, I could drive my car the very first day I arrived. And so I called up my father and I said, Dad, I know you want me to go to the University of Illinois, but I really want to go to the University of Miami. He says, well, you're going to have to take something very serious then. So I said, like what? He says, like electrical engineering. So I said, okay. So I took electrical engineering at the University of Miami, spent 3.5 years getting I had really good grades, everything was going great. I had 1 semester left. I was in ROTC. You know what ROTC is? The Reserve Officer Training Corps. They train you to be a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army. And I was training to be, I really found the Army to be a fascinating subject, a fascinating field. And I was studying to be that second lieutenant. And then I get a draft notice. And I look at the draft notice and I called the draft board and I said, look, I've got 1 semester left. I'll be a second lieutenant and I'll be an electrical engineer. I'll be a lot more valuable if you just give me a 1 semester break. And my grades were really good. They said no. They had just put up the Berlin Wall and they wanted me there. They wanted me in the Army. There was nothing I could do. So they sent me off to Fort Carson, Colorado, went through basic training. They gave the 2,000 troops that were there one of these written tests. I must have gotten 100 because after I took the test, they called me into the commanding general's office, and there were 2 guys in civilian clothes, and one of them said, Mr. Sugarman, I just want you to know you had a very high score in your test, that you are eligible for military intelligence. What do they call that? Oxymoron. Yeah, you're eligible for military intelligence. So I said, well, okay, what does that entail? They said, well, we send you to a spy school. We teach you how to be a spy. And then we send you to some foreign country. And in that foreign country, we teach you the language. You'll never have to wear a uniform again, and you'll be working on very top secret missions. I said, oh, that sounds pretty interesting. I think I might like that. What's the catch? And they said, well, the catch is you got to put in an extra year. So instead of 2 years, you've got to put in a little over 3. So I said, oh, okay, that sounds pretty exciting to me. I'll go for it. So I did. And I finished basic training, went to the spy school, and just to give you an idea of what it was like there, they taught you all how to be a spy, right, basically, or how to catch a spy, or how to detect a spy, or how to plant a bug, or all these different wonderful things you can use in real life. But anyway, I learned all of these things, but the facility itself was just like living in a barracks. There were the bunk beds, and then there was this very large washroom where the guys would go and shave or take a shower. And if you can visualize this, on one side were the showers, and on the other side were the sinks where the soldiers would shave. And in between that was this huge fan. And they wanted to suck out the air so that the mirrors wouldn't get fogged up. But if you were taking a shower, it was cold, and it wasn't very comfortable. So one day I went over to the fan and I shut it off. Start taking my shower, somebody turns it back on. I did this for about 2 or 3 days. Somebody always was there to turn it back on because the mirrors were getting a little fogged. So one night, one late afternoon, I snuck out and I went to this office supply store and I got some materials and I created a sign that looked like a military sign. And it said, and in the middle of the night I woke up and I got all the materials and I wrote the sign out. And it said, with the stencil and everything, it looked very military. And it said, anybody turning the switch on or off will be subject to dismissal from the school and subject to court-martial under Part 407 of the Military Justice Act. Snuck in there at 4 o'clock in the morning, posted the sign. Next morning I woke up, I walk into the washroom, I take a 15-minute shower. The mirrors are getting all fogged up and I am just enjoying this shower. Then I finally take a shave, but before I do that, of course, I turn on the fan so that the mirrors wouldn't be too foggy. I did that for 3 solid weeks until I was called before the commanding general's office. He wanted to see me. And I walk into his office and he says, okay, Mr. Sugarman, I understand you've been violating Part 407 of the Military Justice Act. I didn't know what to say. So I said, well, I'll tell the truth. So I start telling him the story, you know, exactly what I've explained to you. And he starts laughing. I said, sir? He starts laughing. He says, Sugarman, that is ingenious. We need more people like you in military intelligence. He said, I've got a great job for you. I'm going to send you to Germany. We're going to send you to school there. You're going to learn German, and we're going to set you up in one of our major offices over there. So I said, great. So I flew. I finished the school. They sent me over to Germany. They taught me fluent German. Anybody here speak German? Sie sprechen Sie Deutsch? Yeah, ein bisschen, yeah. I speak it fluently, and they taught it to me. I mean, and they didn't know I was an American. I mean, after I started speaking, I mean, it was very intense. There were 2 classes. And there were like 3 teachers for 4 or 5 students. I mean, it was really intense, and I spoke very, very, very fluent German. And so I worked with them, with the military, with the Army. I was assigned a really interesting position, and then I was assigned a position with the CIA, actually working with the CIA on some really interesting missions. Finished with the CIA, finished with the Army, but I stayed with the CIA for about 3 or 4 months. After that, I left and went back to the United States, where I had met somebody in Austria while I was in Europe who wanted to establish a ski lift sales organization in the United States. They manufactured ski lifts. And so I went, learned how to ski and got really familiar with the product, invited a friend of mine from college to join me there, and he became educated on the product and went back and started selling the ski lifts. Well, he would do the selling and installation, but I would do the advertising. And every time we'd do a mailing, we'd get calls and people would say, who does your advertising? Because it was really clever stuff we'd send out. And I said, well, I do. He said, well, would you do our advertising? So I ended up with about 4 or 5 accounts, ski resort accounts, doing that. And also I started attracting political candidates. I did the gubernatorial race. I did the state's attorney's race. I did all these different races. I had my own little ad agency then I was actually forming. And in fact, 85% of my candidates, 85% won their election. However, 50% of that 85% eventually went to jail. But that wasn't my fault. Anyway, so that continued, and then one day I'm sitting down reading Business Week magazine, and I'm reading a story about the world's first pocket calculator. And I said to myself, wow, I said, this sounds really exciting. I'd love to get one of these little pocket calculators, but they cost $240. So I said, you know what? One of my clients could really, really appreciate this. So I brought the article to one of my clients, and I said, this is a great opportunity. You're in the electronics business. Here's the new first pocket calculator. And the guy says, my client said, well, who would pay $240 for something that added, subtracted, multiplied, and divided? I mean, who'd pay that? And he says, why don't you do it yourself? So I said, oh, okay. So I went back home and I called up a lot of my friends and I raised $12,000. And I created a mailing for the pocket calculator, and I got a hold of the Craig Corporation, who were the people who were manufacturing this. It was manufactured in Boston by Craig Corporation, or actually manufactured by Bomar with Texas Instruments chip under the Craig name. I mean, it was a conglomeration, and it wasn't selling. And so when I called them up and asked them for the opportunity to sell their product, they were delighted because they couldn't sell that thing. I mean, it would sit on the shelves for $240. Nobody would be interested in getting it, right? So anyway, long story short, they came, they agreed for us to sell it. We sent out a mailing, 50,000 mailing, and I lost half the money. But I did one clever thing, is that when I rented these mailing lists, I coded every one of the order forms. And back then, you had to send in the order form. There was no toll-free numbers. There was nothing like that. And so I saw that of all the lists that we mailed to, and we mailed to 10 of them, there were 2 that were profitable. And by the way, very unexpected. I would have never suspected that they would be profitable, but they were the most profitable. So I got together with my investors. We sent out a mailing to that list, and it was a huge success. Big success. Now I'm selling pocket calculators. I'm selling more pocket calculators than Sears and JCPenney and all these other companies put together. And I decided to take out a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal. Big mistake. Why? Because then all of the other retailers saw what we were doing, and they said, "Wow, we want that product." And so Craig Corporation had to supply the product to all these big customers of theirs anyway, and cut us out. So we were way backordered. And we did this, we were selling calculators in different versions for about 3 years. Now remember I talked about problem versus opportunity? Here comes one. It was the toll-free number. And what had happened was it was illegal. It was absolutely illegal for you to take a credit card order over the phone because you needed the customer's signature. They would not accept an order, a charge, unless the customer's signature was on that order form. Well, I would get calls, and these guys were desperate. They said, "Look, I need this pocket calculator. I'm going on a trip. I don't have time to send in the order form." So I said, "Well, okay, I'll see." He says, the customer said, "Oh, just sign my name." I said, "Oh, okay." So I signed the guy's name, send the calculator. And I did this for about 6 months. You know, there was a problem. I mean, a problem. I wanted to satisfy our customers, but I had to do it surreptitiously, right? Well, then something interesting happened. I decided I would put in my coupon the words, "Credit card buyers call toll-free." Didn't say that we charge them, just credit card buyers call toll-free. I did that. I got a bunch of toll-free numbers. I hired a staff to staff the phones. Normally took me about 10 days before I knew if I had a success. By noon, we were buried with calls. It was the most incredible thing I had ever experienced. And from then on, every one of our ads, this was 1973, every one of our ads had toll-free buyers call credit card buyers call toll-free. Then one day I get a call from Bell Systems. They were the people that distributed the toll-free numbers. And the guy at the other end of the line said, "Mr. Sugarman, we know what you are doing." I said, "Oh, really?" "Yeah, we know what you're doing, and I'll be real frank with you, we really like it. As a matter of fact, we've talked to the credit card companies, and they've agreed to change their rules to allow toll-free order taking thanks to you. And one of the reasons I'm calling is I'd like to know if we can do a full-page ad about your success in the Wall Street Journal." And I said, "Sure, go ahead." And that launched toll-free order taking, just so you get some idea. Again, a problem turning it into an opportunity.